Hey guys, it's Kat. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, welcome. I'm glad that you found me, and if you like it, I hope that you'll hit subscribe and then the little bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video. And if you're coming back, thank you so much for coming back. I'm really glad to have you. So I'm finally getting around to doing the mom tag video that I mentioned like 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to multitask and do this video while I fold some of my kids' laundry. Okay, so the mom tag video is basically something that was started where as a mom you're asked several questions. Now, the very last question is who's your mom crush and who do you tag? I'm not going to do that. I know I don't really like it when I'm put in the position where I feel like I have to do something. So if you see this video and you would like to answer the questions yourself, please let me know. I'd love to see your answers. Okay, so here we go. The first question is, what's your favorite mom hack? And honestly, I don't think I have one. Unless the DVD player in my van counts, because that is very useful when we have to go anywhere with the kids. But otherwise, I don't think I actually have a favorite hack, really. Second question is, most embarrassing mom moment. I will do one for each of my older kids. The baby's a little bit too little to have embarrassed me in public yet. When my daughter Isabel, who is 7, was younger and the song Uptown Funk had first come out and it was on the radio pretty much all the time, she liked it, and so she would sing it, except she didn't say funk when she sang it. I'm sure you can guess what she said, but it was not funk. So I just know that several times we'd be in public and she would belt that out in her loudest outside voice. And there were a lot of old lady gasp and pearl clutching, and I would get a lot of really nasty looks. And even when I tried to correct her, it just took her until she got older to enunciate it well enough that that's not what she was saying. For my 4-year-old Wesley, it was fairly recently. Where we live in our town, we are in the very corner of our town where we're technically closer to another town than the town that we're actually in. However, I went to our local H-E-B, which is here in Texas, of our town. Now, I don't know why I've had problems with that store before, but we were there and we saw a woman on a mobility scooter yelling at an amputee about how her tax dollars were not going to support his pretend disability. He wasn't even parked in the handicap spot. He was parked in the spot right next to it. And she was just really hollering at him about it. And my 4-year-old asked me, loud enough that they both could hear, why is that fat lady being mean to that robot? I was absolutely mortified. And of course, I scramble and I'm saying, you don't say things like that. You need to apologize. That's not nice. The woman gets mad and she just left on her scooter. But the guy actually kind of got down on my son's level and told him that he was technically a cyborg. So, but that was very, very embarrassing. And I could not believe that he had said that out loud. Let's see. The next question is, what part of the day do you love the most? Probably mid-morning, where it's after breakfast time, but not lunchtime, where the kids have already had breakfast, but and maybe a morning snack, and they're either playing a game together or maybe we're all watching a movie together, where everybody's calm, because by about 3 o'clock everything starts going downhill in my house. The next question is, what part of the day do you like the least? I'm gonna have to say dinner time. Simply because inevitably the baby starts to cry, the kids are hungry and they want to eat, and I'm trying to cook everything while the baby is screaming and the kids are coming in and out asking when everything's done, and it just gets really hectic around that time. The next question is, the worst thing someone said to you when you were pregnant? I don't know about a worst thing, but I can tell you the rudest things that someone asked me. When I was pregnant with my daughter, I went to our local post office, and the town we lived in was very, very small. at one of those towns where we had a couple stoplights and like one really kind of not great grocery store. So I was at our little local post office, and I was probably about 6 months pregnant or so. And this big overweight guy turns to our postmaster after he sees me and says, "If you're that fat, you shouldn't be wearing tank tops." Now, our local postmaster was a very nice man, but he had no tolerance for shenanigans of any kind. And so he just looked at him and he said, "Well, she's pregnant, but what's your excuse?" And then the guy, of course, got all offended and huffy and puffy. But that would probably be the rudest thing that was said to me with my daughter. With my son, I did put on a lot of weight with him, and I got a lot of, "Are you sure there's only one in there?" I'm going to put this out there. You don't ever comment on a pregnant lady's weight, and don't ever ask her, "Are you sure there's only one in there?" That's a good way to get eaten, okay? Don't say stupid things like that. It's rude. It's disrespectful. Don't do it. Okay, and with this one, I got a lot of, "Don't you know what causes that?" I don't know if people think they're cute or they're funny when they say things like that, but it is neither cute nor is it funny. Let's see. The next question is, baby name you didn't agree on. Well, you know what? We agreed on a boy's name immediately with both boys. But my daughter, who's our oldest, we could not agree on a girl's name. We just had very different tastes. And I finally threw out the name Isabel when I was about 7.5 months pregnant. And he liked it, so we agreed on that, which was good because she came at 8 months. Let's see. Do you co-sleep? Not willingly. Sometimes the only way the baby will sleep is if I'm holding him. And he's just kind of at that age right now where they like to be held, and that's kind of how things have to go. And as of right now, sometimes he'll sleep with me, but I never go to sleep when he does that. Something you bought but never used. Probably our first baby carrier. Neither one of my older kids enjoyed being worn. Isabel in particular really, really hated it. Wesley tolerated it for about a month. I can't find them right now, so I can't tell you how Benji likes them or not. But we got kind of an expensive one. It was like an Ergo or something like that. And I didn't like that it was almost a 2-person operation to even get into it because of the way that it was sort of set up. So it was just more, it was a bit more of a hassle than it was worth, in my opinion. But that's probably the one thing that we got that we didn't really use. The next question is 3 hospital bag must-haves. Chargers for your phone, your electronics, whatever you're bringing with you, because you never know how long your labor is going to take. You don't know how long you're going to be there. Things like that. Snacks, because if you have other kids and you're going to be on your own with the baby for a little while, I think it's a good idea to have some sort of little snack to have on hand just in case. And the third one is probably something comfortable from home. You could spend the time in the hospital gown and all that kind of stuff, but you could also just bring something. I know I felt a little bit better when I had something from home to wear. Are you a routine mom or a go-with-the-flow mom, and what does your bedtime look like? I am a routine mom. There's very little wiggle room, especially during the school year, for my kids during bedtime. We start fairly young, that you don't come out of your room unless you have to go potty. You don't come out for another glass of water. You don't come out for another hug or another kiss. I know some kids do it regardless. Maybe I just got lucky that my kids understood early on that you don't do that. Mommy doesn't let you do that. I'm going to see if I can fix the camera a little bit. So our routine normally goes, we have dinner around 6 or 6:30, between that time. Showers, 1 or 2 episodes of a TV show, then bedtime stories, tuck in, and then you go to bed. Bedtime is normally about 8 o'clock during the school year. And during the summer, there's a little bit more wiggle room. We'll let them stay up later because we don't really have anything to do afterwards. And when the fireflies start coming around a little bit more, they'll probably stay up a little later just so they can see them. Okay, what type of labor did you have and what pain relief did you choose? I did not have any pain relief with any of my kids. Now, the labors were very different for each one. Isabel came when I was 8 months on the day. She came so quickly that I had to call 911 to have them come get me, where they sent the EMTs, the fire department, and the police department because they had to kick open my front door because I was upstairs and they told me I couldn't walk down the stairs so the baby could fall out. We got to the hospital. Somebody finally got a hold of my husband after he had like 17 missed calls. He gets to the hospital and maybe 5 minutes later Isabel was born. Unfortunately, the hospital dropped the ball really severely. She almost died. They let us go with her jaundice levels so high. They were talking about blood transfusions and brain damage, and we were life flighted to Scottish Rite, which is the very large children's hospital in Atlanta, Georgia, because we lived in Georgia at the time. She was in the PICU, which is the Pediatric Intensive Care Unit. She was there for a week on feeding tubes and the Billy lights and things they should have been doing at the original hospital. It was a really terrifying experience. And luckily, she is fine and everything worked out. With Wesley, I was in inactive labor for 2 days. So I was having contractions fairly regularly. They just weren't really progressing. Go to the doctor's office for my checkup, and I'm finally at 8 centimeters dilated, so they sent me to the hospital from there. And then I was probably in active labor with him for 3 hours before he was born, and his send-off to me was to kick me on the way out. So I'm sure you can imagine how wonderful that felt. And with Benji, he was the one that messed me up the most. So he was an induction because I had some problems with his. I am of what they call advanced maternal age, which means I am over the age of 35. I had my first child at 29. I had Wesley when I was 32 or 33. And then Benji, I am now 37. Now, I had gestational diabetes with him, like I did with Isabel. And I had excess amniotic fluid. So they were going to induce me just to be safe, which was fine. However, we did have a scare because I went from 6 centimeters dilated to the full 10 within 10 minutes. So they went from upping the medicine and breaking my water to, we gotta go, it's coming right now. And so we did that, and he came, and he's fine, but I had bleeding issues afterwards. I'm okay, he's okay, everybody's okay, but it was a little bit scary for a little while. But yeah, he was the one that probably caused the most damage to me. And let's see. The next question is, have you ever been mom shamed? I think everybody has at some point. You'll be shamed for how many kids you have, or if you've adopted, or if you're bottle feeding or breastfeeding or any of that. There's always going to be somebody. If you're a working mom, if you're a stay-at-home mom, somebody always has something to say about it. I would say the most reasonable thing for me to do is just ignore them. Excuse me. Because really, what else is there to do? I could get upset about it, or I could just ignore it. So that's what I tend to do. But I would say most likely, if you're a mom, you've been shamed at some point in time. It's just whether or not you reacted to it that is the thing. Okay, and the next question is the biggest challenges you faced since becoming a mom. Probably for me, it was getting over the feeling of that I wasn't me anymore. It went from I was Kat and I had a job and I had my friends and I had a husband to I was Isabel's mom. And then I was Isabel and Wesley's mom. And I'm Isabel and Wesley and Benji's mom. And it took a little while for me to kind of adjust to that. When we lived in Georgia, I had some friends that I had made through work, but it was kind of hard for me. Once we moved to Texas, which is where Wesley and Benji were both born, but I was pregnant with Wesley when we moved. I joined a play group and I met a lot of really good friends who are moms and all that. And it was easier for me to accept that, no, I am still Kat. I'm not just somebody's mom and somebody's wife anymore. And that helped me a lot. But that was really hard in the beginning. It was a challenge in the start. And the last question is the best bit of advice that you've ever been given and the biggest piece of advice you'd give to a new mom. I would say the best advice that I was given probably came from my maternal grandma, who we like to think held on long enough to meet Isabel because she died shortly after she was born, but she was end-stage Parkinson's for like 5 years before she died. She was very tenacious. She was a real pit bull about that kind of thing. And in one of her more lucid moments, she said that you're going to hear things from everybody. Everybody's going to give you a piece of advice. But at the end of the day, you know what's best for your kid. And that really kind of stuck with me because my grandma had 4. My mom, my aunt, and my 2 uncles. And I appreciated that, and that really stuck with me. And I would say the biggest advice that I could give to new moms is that you're good enough. You're good enough. You don't have to be like anybody else. You are good enough for your kids just as you are. You don't have to think that you're not as good as the mom down the street who maybe is all organic. And you're not. But you know what? That's okay. You're just as good. You're just as good if you work outside the home. You're just as good if you stay home. This whole mommy wars thing has got to stop. Because it leaves people feeling so overwhelmed when in reality you're good enough. You're just what your kid needs. So that's probably the best advice that I could give to a new mom. Okay guys, so that was the mom tag. If you would like to do the mom tag, please let me know. I would love to hear your answers. Okay? All right, thanks guys, and I hope you liked it. I'll catch you around. Bye.